So we've taken a lot of time to set up how the cases are used in Greek, and there's just no way to overemphasize that you have to learn these case endings. This is the most important part of being able to translate a sentence because you cannot rely on word order. You have to depend on the case endings to understand the function of a word in the sentence. And if you cannot identify what the subject of the sentence is or what the direct object of the sentence is, if you can't differentiate between those two, it's going to be impossible to properly interpret a passage. So you have to memorize these. I think it's helpful at the beginning to memorize them within the chart. Now, we have the chart here. This chart's going to expand. Currently, I'm just showing you the nominative and accusative case. In the next set of case endings, we're going to expand this chart and we're going to insert two more in the middle between the nominative and the accusative. But for our purposes so far, all we've got are nominative and accusative, singular, nominative and accusative, plural, in all three of the genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Okay? The masculine and neuter are called second declension, and the feminine is first declension. All right, so let's begin to fill this in. The first thing I'm going to put up here are the actual case endings. That's not what you'll see usually when you look at a word. You're going to see the stem with its ending next to the case ending. So you're typically going to see these more as the final vowel of the stem and the case ending, but we're going to build toward that. So we're going to start with just the case ending, but probably for most of you, the chart you're going to want to memorize is the final vowel of the stem and case ending. So let's go ahead and look at this. So on the first masculine, on nominative, the ending is here and it is a sigma. So a final sigma. The feminine actually in the nominative singular case has no ending. So the last thing you're going to have is the stem ending of the vowel on the final stem. Okay, and then over here you're going to have a noon is your ending. Okay, so you've got sigma, nothing, noon. Over here you're going to have a noon. So the accusative masculine ends with a noon. Over here, it is also a noon. And over here, it is also a noon. All right, so you have a very clear pattern here. The pattern makes it easier to learn. The difficulty with the pattern, though, is you're going to see several of these have very similar endings. And how do you differentiate? We're going to have to learn that. But for now, just learn the chart. Down here in the plural, you have an iota. This is also an iota, and this is an alpha. Okay. Over here, you have upsilon, sigma. Here you have a sigma, and here you have another alpha. All right. So now this is the nominative and accusative chart for singular and plural. Now, if you remember that second declension words end with omicron noon. Okay, so you've got here. So this one is going to look like in its ending as. Now this in the feminine. Remember, first declension. Feminine nouns either end in alpha or noon. So you alpha or eta. So you've got an alpha or an eta. And it's just different words. Different words like graphe ends with an eta. Hora ends with an alpha. It's just different words in the first declension. Some are alpha, some are eta, but they're always what they are. When you learn them as vocabulary, if it ends in an alpha, then it's always an alpha in the singular. Okay, and then this one would be down here it's going to be oi. Now, when you come to the plural of a first declension noun, they are always going to switch. Even if it's an eta up here in the singular, it will always switch to an alpha in the plural. So this one will always be I. And then that one will just be an alpha at the end. Okay. Here, you're going to have us. Here, you'll have as. And there, you'll have an alpha. That's how it ends. Okay. So this is the full noun chart for nominative and accusative in the singular and the plural for masculine, feminine, and neuter. So you're just going to have to learn these endings. How do you learn these endings? Well, for some people, it will be easiest to learn them on the chart. You should be able to fill this chart in. You need to memorize it enough to be able to fill this chart in. Some of you, oh, excuse me, I didn't add these here. On, this would be either on or ain, and then on. Okay, when you add in the extra. So you can memorize to do it in the chart. The other thing you should be able to do is generally recognize the endings. So I would make flashcards. And if you haven't done this yet, you might want to just buy some 3x5 white note cards and write on the front like as, and then on the back write nominative masculine singular. That's how you learn those endings. What I used to do is I would get note cards. I'd punch a hole in the top left of the card, and then I'd buy a ring, a claspable ring, and keep little rings of my note cards. And so then whenever you have a few moments, you can scroll through them. Flashworks is great for vocabulary, but they don't really do these kind of endings. So I would just make some flashcards, and you should be able to recognize them immediately. You should be able to fill in the chart as we go. All right, so now you know all of the case endings for the nominative and accusative. Nominative being the subject or predicate nominative of the sentence. The accusative being the direct object of the sentence. You know them for all three genders, and you know them for singular and plural. All right, good work. Keep learning.